joined right now on RealAgriculture.com by Jenny Van Rooy. She is with Farmers Feed City. She is the campaign coordinator there, and she is based in Guelph. Welcome today, Jenny.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jenny. Farmers Feed City's just completed a survey with, I guess, across Ontario, urban and rural. What were the results of that survey?
Well, we did a survey similar to this last year, and this year we asked people a few different questions. So first of all, we asked them if they thought that farming in Ontario was important, and we got a great response on that question. 97% of Ontarians agreed that farming was important to the province's economic, social, and environmental health. So that was great news there. And then we asked them a few other questions. One other highlight was that actually only 41% of the younger generation, which we classified at 18 to 34, said that they were aware of where their food was grown. So that was a little bit concerning.
Why? How would that be? Like, they have the wrong assumption, or they just never think about it because the food's always there? What's causing that?
See, we didn't ask them exactly why they weren't aware of where their food was grown. So that over generations, if you look at our numbers, as you get into the older generations of that group, so the 35 to 54-year-olds, 62% of them were aware of where their food came from. And then whenever you got into the 55-plus age range, actually almost 70% of them said they were aware of where their food came from. So it just makes sense to assume that over the generations, there are less and less people living on farms. And so therefore, it's kind of the urban migration that may be playing a small role into that.
Should we care that only 41% know where their food comes from? Does it matter?
I think it's extremely important that as many Ontarians as possible, and Canadians for that fact, know where their food comes from. This will play many benefits into the agriculture industry if people do know where their food comes from and who grows their food, and that it's actually important for them.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at other markets, do people know where their oil comes from and they put in their truck or the gas? Why is it so important to agriculture?
It's the same with any industry. They want their industry to be upfront and people to understand the good parts of it, the bad parts of it, the struggles and the triumphs. And it's the exact same thing with agriculture. So it's important that our urban and rural people alike both know who's producing their food and what benefits this brings to not only our economy here in Canada as well as the environmental health of our country. It's really important that people understand what our farmers are doing for us, and so that's what Farmers Feed Cities is working towards.
Yeah, do you find it interesting that 97% of Ontarians agree that farming is important to the province's future, but only 41% know where their food comes from? Do those numbers seem to conflict with each other maybe a little bit?
At first glance, they may conflict, but realistically, there's been many other studies done examining people's thoughts of farmers and farming in Ontario, and overwhelmingly, people really get a warm, fuzzy feeling of farmers. They think farmers are great people, and so when you look at those statistics and compare them to this 97% of Ontarians agree that farming is important, it's not that big of a shocker, but it's kind of like they know that they should know more about their food, but they just really can't figure it out sometimes. So that's what we're trying to do, is to give them the information to educate themselves and figure out more about farming.
Well, and realistically, that's a pretty wide question, right? So, do I know where my food comes from? Okay, well, I know it comes from the farm, but maybe I take that question as I don't know exactly which farm it comes from. So, I guess it's how you interpret it.
Exactly, and that's the struggle with any survey that you ever do, but we wanted to leave it open-ended just so that people usually, if anything on a survey, they'll be more confident than what they maybe normally would be. Mm-hmm. So that's maybe a little bit of a concerning factor there. Yeah.
So what does Farmers Feed Cities do with this information? Is this encouraging? Is this sort of a challenge? Okay, we got some work to do, or how do you feel about it?
Exactly. It's definitely sets a benchmark, and it cuts out some work for us to do. But that's why we're here. That's why we're eager to kind of set a benchmark and say, okay, now how are we going to improve this number year after year? And so we have a few programs outlined to help kind of combat these results and try and get better results for next year. One of our results was actually talking about was actually asking people if they'd heard of farmers feed cities, and in urban areas that number actually jumped quite a little bit from last year to this year. So we know that we've been making some progress, but there's always more to do.
Well, I still have every year when I go to the outdoor farm show in Woodstock, I grab some of the yellow stickers and I stick them on my camera computer bag. So those stickers, that campaign has been very effective. So I congratulate you on it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Jenny, we will talk to you again soon, and good luck in fall and through the winter.
Perfect. Thanks.